All right, chapter 4, lesson 1. We all need to flip to our objectives, please, and write down chapter 4, lesson 1 objective is I will be able to write fractions as decimals that are terminating and repeating. Chapter 4, lesson 1, I will be able to write fractions as decimals that are terminating and repeating. Once you have that written down, please put the page number on your notes. Again, it is helpful if we just yell that out right now. So if anyone has their page numbers accurate, please yell it out. As you're finishing those, I'm going to start to read the top paragraph. Part 1 says write fractions as decimals. This lesson is all review, but some of you we're going to need to go over this again because a lot of us forget this. At the top, if possible, when writing fractions as decimals, make the denominator, bottom number, a power of 10 or a multiple of 10. If you cannot do that, then just divide. So you're going to add in the word divide or the symbol for divide in the first blank on the top. Write each fraction or mixed number as a decimal. Then determine if they are terminating or repeating. So those are two words that were on your vocab, terminating or repeating. Terminating means the decimal ends. It has an ending. Repeating means the decimal goes on forever or doesn't end. Goes on forever or doesn't end. Okay, once you have that down, we're going to look at the first few problems together. Then the rest, I'll have you pause the video for and do them on your own. Then you'll play the video again and I'll show the answers and you can check them. It's totally possible that I make a mistake on this. So if you think I made a mistake, respectfully have a nice discussion in class about it. Okay, letter A. 74 100ths. So if I want to make this a decimal, 74 is a smaller number than 100. So that means my decimal is going to be 0 and 74 hundredths. Well, the hundredths place is 2 past the decimal. So I'm just going to fill in 74 there. So our answer for letter A is 0.74. Or 0 and 74 hundredths. Letter B, 7/20ths. Okay, so 20 is not a power of 10. So somehow we need to think back to 5th and 6th grade work. How did we manipulate a fraction to change the denominator? Well, we want to think about something that we can multiply this fraction by to get the denominator of 100. So I need to multiply by something, and I don't know what, but when I get the answer, the bottom number needs to be 100. So how do we change 20 to 100? Think about that for a second. It should be a multiplication fact that you've memorized. You should be multiplying both by 5. 5 divided by 5, this fraction here, is 1. So we haven't changed the problem. We're just rewriting it in a different fashion. If I now multiply, 20 times 5 is 100, which is what we wanted. 7 times 5 is 35. Since we have our denominator of 100, we can read the fraction, and that is our answer. 35 is less than 100, so it's 0 and 35 100ths. Letter C. -5 and 3/4. So there's a whole number here. So in our answer, we should have a whole number with some stuff or with some decimals. So our answer should be -5 point stuff. Well, what is that stuff? Well, then we need to go back and look at our fraction. 3/4. We need a way to make 3/4 have a denominator of 100. 4 times what is 100? Well, 4 times 25. So what we're multiplying by would be the fraction 25 over 25. So then if I multiply straight across, you should get 75 over 100. So then it's 75 100ths. So our answer is -5.75. Excellent. So now, I know you've been dying to use those calculators. And how can we use those? So the way we just did A, B, and C would be how you had to do it in 5th and 6th grade. No calculator, all memory, all multiplications and skills. Is there an easier way? Yes, of course there is. I've been waiting for you to ask me when that would be. So here it is. Letter D is -6 and 1/2. So -6 is going to be in our answer. It's going to be a decimal. Now in your calculator, why don't you type in 1 divided by 2. Hit enter. You should get 0.5. If you add those two things together, you get -6.5. You're done. Less work, a lot less work. Okay, the only thing we haven't talked about yet is the word terminating and repeating. So far, have any of our decimals repeated? No. Hopefully you said no. None of them repeated. They've all had a termination or an ending. So A, B, C, and D, you should be writing terminating. So let's go back and write terminating for each of those. And the spelling, because I know you can't read that writing, is up in the top. So you should be writing terminating for A, B, C, and D. They all had an end. All right, let's see if we can use those calculators a little bit more now. Letter E. Remember, fractions are division problems hidden away. So in your calculator, clear off the screen, please type in 3 divided by 8. And if it helps you to rewrite in your notes what you did on the calculator, please do that. 3 divided by 8. Your calculator should read 0 and 375 thousandths. That's your answer. And again, it terminates, it does end. I would like you to now take the next few minutes and do the rest of these on your own. Don't be nervous. Use your calculator or show your work from 5th and 6th grade without the calculator. It is your choice. Numerator divided by denominator. If there's a negative sign, you can type that in as well. The tricky one would be letter I, in that you need to find the two answers and put them together. When I get back, I will go through step-by-step procedures with you on how to type that number in 2 and 1/8 in one process, but it's a lot of memorization on the calculator. So I would prefer that you just do in your calculator 1 divided by 8 and you add on the 2. Okay, at this time, please pause the video, take your time, and finish the front side. When you're done, press play on the video. All the answers will come up and you can check your work. Okay, by this time I hope you've had the chance to do these on your own. Because again, the only way to know this is to do it. The only way to learn it is to practice. Whether you're doing it the old-fashioned 5th and 6th grade way or whether you're using a calculator. Letter F, you should have -0.025 and it is terminating. Letter G, 7 divided by 9, your calculator should have said 0.77777, but we need to remember that is too much sevens. That 7 goes on forever. Your calculator has an end point. It has a screen only so big. So 777 eventually cut off, and they probably rounded it to 8. But you need to know that it's still sevens. The calculator had to end it because it has no more screen. So our answer is 0.7 with a bar above the 7. One of your vocabulary words was bar notation. That means that 7 repeats and goes on forever. So G should be 0.7 with the bar over it and the word repeating. Letter H should be negative 0.875 terminating. Letter I, 2 1/8 is the same as 2.125 and it terminates. Letter J, negative 3/11. On your calculator, you should have gotten negative 0.272727272727, and eventually your calculator cut it off and could have rounded it to 27272727.3. The calculator rounded it because it ran out of screen. You need to know that it's 272727. That's a pattern. So it's negative 0.27 with the line over both the 2 and the 7 because both are repeating. And again, we need the word repeating because it goes on forever. All right, when you're finishing checking that over, if you don't have any questions, flip it over. We'll get started on the back. If you have any questions, please ask them now. On the back, part 2, write terminating decimals as fractions. So at the very top it says, just say the number out loud. Now, caution. We can whisper the number out loud so that we're not interfering with other people. For example, 0.23 is not read 0.23. In 5th grade, 2 years ago, you had to say the number the proper mathematical way. You would have said 0 and 23/100, which means 23 is the numerator and 100 or 100th as the denominator. Don't forget to reduce. We need to add the word reduce. I'm going to make it red because you need to do it. You must reduce. It is still part of your grade to reduce, reduce, reduce. Even though I've been testing you this year, last year, and in 5th grade, you still need to reduce. Practice makes perfect. So letter A, write the following decimals as fractions. So this is not 0.15 or 0.15. Rehearse the way you had to do it in 5th grade so that this becomes easier for you. I see 0 and 15/100ths or 15/100ths. Spelling does not count as long as you can make out what the word is, or I can make out what the word is. So to be honest, 15, that sounds like a terrifying word to spell. So I'm just going to write 15. 0 and 15/100ths. So the fraction would be 15/100. It seems a little bit more reasonable now. If you read it out loud, and again, at a whisper, everyone doesn't need to hear you reading it. Letter B, negative 0 and 2. What place value is the 2? The tenths. So the decimal would be 0.2 is the same as 2/10. Please try letter C and D on your own. Again, spelling doesn't count. Laziness is not an option. Please pause the video. When you press play again, I'll have the answers shown for you. Take your time. Whisper it out loud. 0 and 5 and. You can do it. So read the number, and the last number, you talk about the place value. Hopefully you had some time to check those out. Letter C, 0 and 55/100ths. Letter D, 5 and 96/100ths. Both of those had 2 numbers past the decimal, which is the hundredths place, so that needs to be in our answer. If we were making those fractions, you would then have to reduce, reduce, reduce. Letter E, find the fraction for each type of fish in the chart. Be sure to reduce. I'd like you to try this one on your own. The fish, guppy, angelfish, goldfish, mollyfish. The amounts are in the next column. Show your work. There's lots of room here to show work. Show your work. Please pause the video, and when you're ready to check your answers, press play again. For each of the fish, I read the number out loud to myself. 0 and 25 hundredths. So 25 over 100. If it reduces, you have to. 25 100ths reduces to a fourth. The angelfish, 0 and 4 tenths. 4 tenths reduces to 2 fifths. Goldfish, 0 and 15 hundredths. 15 over 100 reduces, I can divide both those by 5, 3 20ths. The molly, 0 and 2 tenths. 2 tenths is literally my fraction, 2 over 10. I can divide 2 out of both. Your answer is 1/5. If you have any questions, again, I'm going to need you to ask them now. If you think I made any mistakes, respectfully, please have a discussion about it. We can watch the video again if you need to. If you're finished, the rest of class will be used for starting your homework. If you finish, you are to read a book. You are not to disrupt anyone else. You are not to get up and walk around the room. Good luck.